What's going on, guys? I'm Travis Dieter. We got Trey Dieter behind the camera. Last video, when we were doing our fab video on our Harbor Freight press, we mentioned that we're gonna do another video showing you guys how to deduct your dimensions before you bend. So now I'm gonna do a breakdown on, we'll do 90 degrees, 45 degrees. We'll use a couple different types of material, use 1/4 inch and some 1/8 inch, and we'll show you guys exactly how to do an inside dimension and an outside dimension. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so here's how we're gonna talk about this. That sounds stupid. All right, guys, so a little backstory real quick. I used to be an iron worker. I used to run a 250-ton press all the time. We bent lots of stuff for a lot of different casinos and fire trucks and bridges and you name it. Anyways, when you guys are getting ready to do your bends and say you're gonna do a shackle on a vehicle, right? You're gonna start out, and there's two different ways to do this. There's inside dimensions. So if you hear ID, this is what you see on plans all over the place, buildings, cars, whatever. You have an ID dimension that's gonna be inside the material, inside to inside, ID. So always remember that. And then you have an OD, which would be outside dimension, outside to outside. So like right now, we're looking at 9 3/4 by 2 3/4. So here's how this is, it's kind of confusing to explain this at times because a lot of people think when we go to bend this in a press, we're stretching the material. We're not. You're basically just taking the material and folding it in half or like I said, a 45-degree angle or whatever. We used to call it gyp the material back in the day. So what you would do, all right, so here we go. We'll try to explain this in the most simple manner as possible. This is a piece of channel I'm showing you guys. 2 inches by 4 inches by 2 inch. That would be outside dimension, OD. Okay, so those measurements, if that's what you want to bend, say you need something similar to this. We're using 1/4 inch material, by the way. I went with 1/4 because I figured that'd be the easiest one for everybody to understand. Now you also see these inside dimensions. If we have 4 inches on the outside of the measurement, from outside to outside, now minus 1/4 inch for the thickness of the material, and the thickness of the material, you're gonna have 3.5 inches to the inside dimension. 2 inches on the outside, 1 3/4 on the inside. Don't forget, you're adding 1/4 inch in this corner right here. Okay, so say you've got a drawing, you're looking at a print, and the print calls for a 2 inch by 4 inch or 2 inch. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take that and we're gonna add our measurements together. Okay, so we'll go back to say this piece of channel is a 4 inch outside dimension, a 2 inch outside leg, and a 2 inch outside leg. That gives us 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches total. So before we take this, now say we took this right over to the bender and we drew a 2 inch line and a 2 inch line, and we bent that, all of a sudden, our measurement's gonna be 2 1/4 because we added the lower section of the thickness of the material. I know it sounds very confusing, but think of it as like when I fold over, when we take this material and we fold it over, you're adding the thickness under here. So don't forget. So if I was to draw this line right at 2 inches and I bend it, this is 1/4 inch thick, it's gonna be 2 1/4 on the outside. So now it's long. Now we just screwed up our part. So ahead of time, we have to think, when we go to lay this out to cut it, are we doing inside dimensions or outside dimensions? So if we're gonna do outside dimensions, we have to minus the thickness twice. So the reason why we're minusing the thickness twice is because we've got a 90-degree bend. So not only do you have the thickness going downward, you have the thickness going across. So horizontal and vertical. So in this situation, before I was to cut this, I'm gonna literally have to take off a 1/4 inch, a 1/4 inch, which is a half, another 1/4 inch, and another 1/4 inch, and that's a half. So before I go and cut this, it's no longer gonna be 8 inches, it's gonna be 7. I'm sorry, I'm upside down right now. So when I go to bend this, lay my part out, I'm gonna take my square. Remember, we're doing a 2 inch outside dimension leg. we're not gonna mark it at 2 inches. We're gonna mark it at 1 3/4. Now we're only gonna minus the thickness once. So now we're gonna make it 1 3/4. I'm gonna draw our line. Now when I bend this, it's gonna be 2 inches. Once again, I know it sounds like it doesn't make any sense, but what makes the most amount of sense is 1 3/4. Now let's add that thickness right there. That outer thickness, which is your bottom. And that now becomes that part that you minused out in our drawing right here. So when we bend this, we're bending this first mark right here. We're adding that thickness. That's this one right there. When I bend this, it's going to come out 2 inches. So let's go over the bender and I'll show you guys real quick. And by the way, guys, if you didn't see, we actually did a little review video on this little press that we got from Harbor Freight. It's on the playlist. You can check it out. So anyways, I'm going to get this ready. We're going to bend our mark at 1 3/4 of an inch. When we're done with that 90 degrees, it's going to be 2 inches. So, you guys ready? Here we go. I like to take the material and tilt it. I like to take the material and tilt it up so it's right on that knife edge of the top die, your mark. And then we're going to bend it. It's a little weak. All right, so that was just a guess at close to 90. If you hear me say the term weak, that means it's under 90. So this is barely under 90. But anyways, I want to show you guys the measurement. Do you see our other line? Now, if I'd have measured that at the 2 inches like we said, wouldn't have worked. So here we're going to check it real quick. There you go, 2 inches. We made our mark at 1 3/4. So see what I'm saying, guys? So now if you're doing a double, a channel, it's the same process. Okay, so now you guys see what I'm talking about on outside dimension. Always remember, when you're doing outside dimension measurements, outside, you're gonna minus the thickness once, twice, 3, 4 times on a piece of channel like this. If this was just an angle, you're gonna minus the thickness once, twice. So I'm hoping you guys are understanding that. If you're not, just go ahead and make a comment and I'll reply to you and we'll get it straight for you. Now, here's where everything changes. You want to do inside dimensions, okay? When we're out in the structural world, there's a lot of times you have inside dimensions, especially say like for a semi-truck. We want to do a frame extension. There's going to be 2 of these. There's going to be an inside and an outside. So you have to think ahead of time about how you're about to do that. One of the channels needs to make sure it fits the other channel. So that's how we do frame extensions, right? So say now we're going to do the inside dimensions, ID. You're going to measure everything from the inside. Inside to inside, we're at 7.5 right now. Inside to inside, we're at 1 3/4. And then this side is going to be 2.5. You guys don't have to keep track of the numbers. All I'm going to explain to you is this is the easiest part. If you measure everything from the inside dimension and do not include the thickness of the material, then you do not minus anything on your cut. If that makes sense to you guys, okay? So what I'm saying is, we'll go back and we'll use this for another example. I'm just going to say this is 2 inch, this is 2 inch, and this is 6, okay? It's just for an example. If that's what we're looking for, inside dimensions only, inside, 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 we're not going to jip anything on the material, okay? You're going to cut it exactly what that says. You wanted a 6-inch ID, a 2-inch ID, and a 2-inch ID, cut your part at 8 inches. When you go to do your lines, do not minus the thickness. Draw it exactly at 2 inches, So I'm hoping this is making sense to you guys. Inside dimensions, don't minus anything. Outside dimensions, minus the thickness twice. And then when you measure it, minus the thickness once. Hope that's making sense. Don't forget, when you bend that, when you're marking that at 1 3/4, it's gonna be 1 3/4 on the inside. Now, if you accidentally marked it and minused a 1/4 of an inch out of there, say for example, now your inside's gonna be 1 1/2. And that's where everything gets messed up. Say you're doing a shackle, right? And you have 2 holes in it, which I'm gonna cut one in on the plasma here in a minute. And we bend it and we just start to lay out our stuff, all of a sudden our holes are off because you only got one shot to get that correct, right? So if you're measuring inside, you're measuring outside, and you're not minusing or subtracting correctly, it could be skewed, your holes could be off, it could be too wide, you go to put it in there and it doesn't fit the leaf springs or whatever you're doing. So hopefully this is gonna kind of lay it out and make it a lot easier for you guys. The other thing, if we talk about 45 degrees, so we're gonna take this piece of 10 gauge, well 11 gauge, so it's 1/8 of an inch thick. We're gonna bend this at 45 degrees, beep. Now we're gonna do half. We're gonna do half of what we just explained on the 90 degrees, 45 is half. Depending on how thick your material is. This is thin enough, this 1/8 inch is thin enough, you could probably get away with not really minusing a whole lot. Maybe if you wanted to, an 1/8 inch overall. Because now your measurement is going from center of bend. So I'm gonna go do one real quick. We'll do like a 45 degree bend and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Piece that's 8 1/8 inches long. I'm gonna draw a line at 4 1/16. That would be the center of the plate. On a 45 degree bend, you're only doing half of it. If that makes sense, you're doing half of what you did with the 90 degree deductions on an outside to outside bend. When we do 45 degree bends, we always go from center of bend to outside of material. So some people might need to move that radius wherever they want, but industry standard 45 degrees is outside to center of bend. Because we're not bending that material all the way to 90 degrees, we're not adding the lower piece. So let me go ahead and bend this and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. We have our mark at 4 1/16. Oh guys, and by the way, I'm gonna have more videos coming out. We're gonna do box pan stuff. We're gonna make pans with the brake. We're gonna use the bead roller and then we're gonna take the shrinker stretcher. So we'll show you guys how to take angle, 18 gauge, and go ahead and make like wraparound window pieces, things that go around in the cars, things you can use when you're making furniture. It's endless. So that's coming up in some more of the videos. Okay, so we'll go over that one more time. This is a 45 degree bend on a piece of 11 gauge, which is technically like a 1.25, 1/8 of an inch. So we only, we went ahead and put our line dead center of the material. The material is 1/8 1/8. We made it 4 1/16. 45 degrees. Oh, the little things that make us happy. Okay, so there we go. We went ahead and bent it at 45 degrees. Okay, now we're gonna go measure it. Okay, guys, remember when we said 45 degrees, I have a little mark there for center, okay? There we are, 4 1/16, maybe just slightly over, 4 1/16. So see, we didn't minus anything on that. See how we didn't, that's 45 degrees and we didn't minus anything and we hit our mark, dead on, 4 1/16, 4 1/16. Now if that's thicker material, the thicker this gets, say this is a piece of 1/2 inch material. Now you gotta start to think, am I still doing an inside dimension or an outside dimension? Because this is thin, we can get away with a little bit of a cheat here. Now if this was 1/2 inch, just think, now from where are you gonna measure from center? Are you measuring outside to center or inside to center? So that's where everything changes. If you are doing a heavier material, you're measuring outside, go ahead and minus 1/2 of that thickness. So 1/2. You would only measure, instead of minusing the full amount of that 1/2 inch plate, you're only gonna minus 1/4. But that's only on 45 degrees, okay? Or less, 30, Anytime you do a full wrap like that, 90 is where you're really gonna start to notice that your dimensions and measurements are off. We're gonna run over the plasma table and we're gonna cut basically like a shackle with 2 holes in it, and we're gonna show you guys a W break. And this is for when you have longer legs. When I say that, this is what I mean by leg. When you have a longer leg and a shorter belly. It sounds like a troll. These are the terms you use in a steel shop, if you're in a fabrication shop. When you hear belly, that means the middle. When you hear leg, that means right here. I think every country calls it something else. I'm sure Canada calls it something else too. Our good buddies in Canada. So yeah, we'll go cut that. We'll show you the W break. Let's run over the pass cut. That should be 11. Do I gotta take my 11 and a half. Ooh, that's cutting it close. There we go. Okay, zero it out. Let me load G-code. Okay, I'm gonna load our G-code part number. I think we had a shackle that we pre-drew a little bit ago. Shackle, open it up, there's our part. We should be already zeroed and ready to go. So we're gonna hit run. Boop. Okay guys, hope you understand what we're talking about on our 45 degrees. Hope you understand what we're talking about on our 90 degrees. Because now, we're gonna move to one more type of bend. Trust me, there's a million different types of bends out there. We're just going with the most simple stuff that you use on cars, motorcycles, and blah, blah, blah. This one's gonna be called a W break. W, because we're gonna bend a 90, and a 45. Then we're gonna flip the material, stick it back in the break, and we're gonna smash the 45 into a 90. The reason why we have to do a W break is usually depending on what press you're using. This was the old fake little crappy press that we made before. This was the top die, which just is a piece of angle iron. This is also a piece of angle iron, and the press will go like this. So when I say that, W break normally means that the legs are taller than the belly. So you have a long leg, short belly. Troll again, trolls. Here's what happens. When you put this in a normal press and you need a longer leg than the belly, let's say the belly's only like 2.5, what'll happen is when you go to bend that, you can go ahead and bend 190, and then you go to flip it over and bend that second 90, what's gonna happen is this long leg is gonna hit the brake, and that's it. You're at a dead stop. So now you're at, one's at 90 and one's at 30 degrees, and you're like, oh dude, I ruined my part. Well, we'll show you a quick little trick. That's why sometimes when you guys see shackles that are really skinny in the middle, they may have a crease in the middle. Is because whatever machine was that part was being bent on, that's exactly what they did. They did two 90s, a 45 in the middle, and then came back and bent it in the middle and brought those two together. So, I hope this is making sense. Maybe I'll draw it too. Should I draw it real quick? Let me see if I can draw it upside down. I'll show you guys what I was talking about. Here's your lower die. Here's your upper die. Here's the actual press itself. What happens is, when you bend a skinny shackle, when I mean that, and I'm just using a shackle as an example because that's usually the most common things. You're gonna see me draw a solid mark, that means that's a hole if we're looking through the drawing, okay? So this thing, after it's bent, those holes are this. If you're used to reading blueprints, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So say, let's just say that's 4 inches, that's 4 inches, and this is 2 inches. So what we're gonna do is take this material, we have our marks laid out at 4 inches, we're gonna bend this at 90 degrees. Gosh, I'm upside down. Sorry guys, I'm upside down. 90 degrees. And then we're gonna bend right down the center. We're gonna bend, and it necessarily doesn't always have to be 45 degrees, but we'll say anywhere from 30 to 45 degree bend in the center. So when you're done bending it, it's gonna look like a W. "90 degrees, 90 degrees, 30 degrees. So then we take this part, we put it back in the press. And what's gonna happen now is, I don't know if I can draw this upside down. So we're gonna take our die, we're gonna hit the center of that bend, and we're gonna press down, and when we do that, the sides are gonna come forward like that, okay? What I was saying before is, if you were to bend this without doing that W break, your part's gonna end up looking like this. Because what happens is, your die is in this corner right here, here's your machine. So when you go to bend that leg into 90 degrees, bam, you hit this wall right here. There is other ways of doing this, of bending a weak 90 and a weak 90, and then going in and trying to tap it back out and get it. It's always a pain in the ass. This is probably the easiest and quickest way to create a skinny shackle on a short machine. They do make machines out there that have the ability to do this, but unfortunately, we're poor. Everybody used to think I was so rich on the TV show. I was not rich, and I'm still not rich. I'm rich with love, right, Trey?
Yeah.
I love my son. So much love. Anyways, let's get to bending. We should have had a hard hat on. Don't use this as a tool holder. I get hit in the head. Roughly 45 degrees, okay? Now, we're gonna try to get this in there and bend our 90 and our 90. This is gonna be fun. It might be too skinny. I may have to move it. I just saw something. This is too wide. Hope that's close. Here comes a W. Don't forget, now when you're doing a W break, when we go to flip this over, sorry, to smash this, okay, this one, see this one right here? This die is like 2.5 inches wide. This belly is supposed to be 2 inches. You need to make sure that your material will catch the edge of that when you go to press that middle. So this one was a little wide to do a W brake on. This one I'm gonna fight with in a second, but hopefully we get it to work. That's what happens when you don't pre-test it, you just do it. Don't talk about it, be about it. You know who used to say that? Justin Kramer. Okay, we're on to our second 90-degree bend. Put our safety glasses on. It's getting close. Take two, take 5. Okay guys, this is what I was talking about. Now this particular press has a very wide piece right here. You see how close we are right now? Now if I would have just bent this the first time at 90 degrees, I would have, when I go down the second bend, this is gonna hit this, okay? Especially if you have a solid brake. WWW. So now what we're gonna do. Winner, chicken dinner. Now we're gonna hit the middle of the die right there, and we're gonna bring this together. So that's why I was saying, sometimes when you guys see shackles, you might see this weird little wobble on the top of it. It's probably because they bent it like this, okay? So now we'll try. Now, mind you, this Harbor Freight die is kind of skinny. So I'm hoping it's gonna land right on those 2 radiuses of that 90 right there. So before we go and bend it, you guys see this? You see how far that's sticking out? What did we say we wanted our inside? About 2 inches, right? This thing's like 2 5/8. So we may have a problem. That may run into that. So I could slide it over here, which is not recommended to do an offset bend, but we're gonna try it anyways. Okay? Notice I put a little fast cut on there. Okay, I'm doing an offset, which is not recommended. When I mean offset, I'm bending a piece of material not necessarily in the center, but in the middle. Sometimes on the bigger dies, you can move your material around because you will wear out your die if you keep bending it in the same spot. So can you guys see? I'm right on the edge of the die. Right on the edge of the die. Make a song about that. Maybe I'll be a rock star. Okay, ready? Don't like it because it's offset. It doesn't like it, but we're gonna keep going. No, I don't like it. Okay, you guys just witnessed, it doesn't like to do an offset bend. So, and it looks like our pump's leaking now. We might have just destroyed some stuff. See, talking back. Okay, well.
Do 2 5/8.
The only thing I can do is smash it up to the 2 5/8. Hopefully we get right, hopefully our part lands right underneath it. I don't think it's gonna, I think it's gonna smash and get stuck, but we're gonna go anyway. See, there we go, guys. This is exactly what I was talking about. We're bottoming out, so that's my mistake. I should have made that belly probably 2 1/2, 2 3/4, but I wasn't paying attention because this is a brand new tool that we have. We didn't really measure it. But I think you guys are gonna get the gist of what I'm talking about here and how this works. We're gonna go a hair more because you can back brake these. Hopefully that's not hitting our bolt. Yeah, it's hitting our bolt, isn't it? Look at that. Damn, he's holding us back right now. I'm gonna break that bolt off. Here's the other issue that'll happen with a brake like this. When you go to pull your part out, if this was a normal press, I could release this press up another 12 inches. We can pull our part out. This one, now you see, if I could have kept doing a little bit more on that 90, you see what happened when I just bent that. The top Allen bolt just caught that. So I'm gonna make some more mods to this machine. I'm gonna radius all this out. Let's go ahead and show them that. I'm gonna radius all this out, re-weld this, and eliminate these and do a pin through the center and another pin offset. That way in the future, when I wanna do these W bends like that, I won't run into this problem. This machine is capable of doing this. You just need to do some mods. So anyways, you see what I'm saying? There's our 90 degrees. Unfortunately, it hit that Allen head bolt and did this to it, but this would have been 90 degrees and there would have been our shackle that we needed for a 4-link or whatever. So hopefully that made sense. Does it make sense to you, Trey?
It makes sense.
It makes sense. This was just for an example. So now you guys kind of see. And another thing is, now you also got to witness me do a tall leg, skinny belly on a Harbor Freight press. So now you know, when you get one, if you are gonna be doing stuff like that, it doesn't like offset bends, meaning when you're bending left or right of center. Now, if this had another post right here and another post right here, equal length, which I think is a smart idea to do, you could probably do that. But because this is spring loaded and it's a center mount, if you try to bend this over here or over here, the machine's just gonna go so far and it's gonna stop. It's gonna try and take your die and do this to it, which you could risk breaking a pin. You could risk getting hurt if it shatters and comes at you. So just do your mods like I was talking about, eliminate that, shave this down, then you can get skinnies like that. Okay guys, so hopefully we kind of explained it, because Trey did all the talking actually.
Yeah, that was me.
He's quiet sometimes, but anyways.
No, if you guys have any questions, leave a comment. Outside, inside dimension, or hey, what total length of material am I cutting for this or this?
Well, and there's multiple ways of doing this too. You guys got to think too, just like Trey said, you might want to do a Z, okay? Say it's a giant countertop and you need the backsplash to be 4 inches ID, and then you need 30 inches OD, and then you need another OD. So you've got 2 outside dimensions and an inside dimension. You're gonna use those same things I was telling you. You're gonna minus twice for those 2 outside dimensions and nothing for that inside dimension. So once again, just like Trey said, if you guys don't really understand it, I don't have any problem trying to walk you through any of this stuff. So, and then
Or if they have suggestions, I mean,
yeah, if you guys have a Harbor Freight press and you've done some mods to it too, let us know.
even with your drawings.
Yeah, I apologize, guys. Sometimes it's hard to explain.
I personally like it.
Yep. I tell you what, next time we'll get us a big old dry erase board. We'll make it a little easier. That way I can. Yeah, we're gonna put it in so people are looking at the thing upside down. But anyways, okay, guys. Thank you again. Please subscribe, like, share, whatever. Spread the news. We're back in town. Anyways, thank you guys. Take care. We'll see you.